For you.
Speaking moistly, keep
Stick
2 meters apart. Speaking
Speaking
moistly.
moistly.
Bom, bom,
Welcome
bom.
everyone to Speaking Moistly. Greg with the intro beatboxing.
That's right.
What up?
That's right. Happy Tuesday, everybody in
Holy
communist
smoke.
Canada. How are
Yeah. Yeah. So, right. It seems like today was kind of, the day of the knives, the day things kind of solidified. I think everybody thought that we were going to go back to normal somehow. Really, I think that people did. I think people thought that.
People still think that,
People
actually,
do.
unfortunately.
And so like people are losing their jobs. The thing is, divided we fall. And they divided the teachers. They paid off the teachers for a year. This is your new job. Welcome to your house. They paid off the unions, right?
Yep.
The politicians were told, if you don't fall in line, you will be removed from caucus. So they paid off the politicians with their jobs. And now they're saying, if you want to participate in society, you have to also. Manulife Banking did this. Other banks I heard did this, but I haven't had confirmation. Manulife, I have sources, and my sources say Manulife has the date of October 31st. If you don't get your shots by then, that's that, done, game over. So, and it's slow. So like now, today, I guess, is the day where certain places are like, yep, if you don't have your double vax, that's that, you're done. And then now we've got another date, October 31st. What's next, do you think? So like somebody, I was chatting with somebody in the lunchroom, in my house at the lunchroom. And they were saying like, we're just trying to solve the next problem, right? The coming problem. I said, oh, the class is closing down and your kid's getting sent home from school for 2 weeks because they've been exposed. They're healthy, but they were exposed to somebody who had another healthy kid with a positive test. And they said, yeah, that's what the problem we're trying to solve. I said, what happens when they take your kids away from you because you're not vaccinated? And they said, what? And I was like, yeah, man, like, what do you think comes next? When they say vaccinated people are dangerous, when they say vaccinated people spread disease, right? When they say vaccinated people should wear a Star of David on their outer clothes, what's next?
Yeah.
Right. Like,
I have no sympathy for these people.
What's next?
Like, where do you think this is headed? And this is what so drives people insane, right? I see my family members. I talk to people like what you're talking about, and it's like, do you have any foresight at all? Like, do you have any sort of mental capacity to imagine what is coming next? So I know we've been in like the 2 weeks for the past year and a half, but it's like there will be no vaccine passport. There will be no segregation of society. It's all happening, folks. So I think you're right. I think it's so frustrating how it's like, why do no people want to, look a month down the road, or 3 months, or God, 6 months? Scary. Can you imagine?
So we've got mask mandates. How, like, is it what, 60% of people wearing masks where you are?
And they're 125% effective, by the way.
Okay, right. So like, here it's 99%, actually 98%. I was out and I saw
uptake,
like people wearing masks.
Like when you go outside. Outside.
50-50, I would say. Like if you're at a bus stop or something like that, 50-50, I would say. But like, even like if you go out into wherever, I see the worst part of this is the women who've suddenly got beards, right? The people who've like pulled their mask down and it looks like they've got a dark, like, Islamic beard. I'm like, why are all these? Oh, and then you get close and you realize they're just wearing their mask under their chin and it looks terrible. Anyway, but like mask mandates, we've had that in for a while. We've got social distancing. We've had lockdowns. We've had limiting non-essential.
All temporary. It's all temporary.
So, by the way. But here we've got all of these things. None of them have done a damn thing. None of them have worked at all. Nothing. Right. And they haven't done it. Yeah. Oh my gosh, this lockdown works so well. Let's have another. Right. Your mask works so well. Let's put 2 more on you. Right. Like, come on, dehumanize the crap out of you. Let's put them on your kids. Let's jab your kids. We have 80% vaccinated, wearing masks, socially distanced. And we can't solve this problem. And the solution is now vaccine passports. Can you articulate to me how vaccine passports are going to solve this when masks, vaccines, social distancing, lockdowns haven't done anything? Do you know how this is supposed to work?
I mean, we are living and watching a massive psychological operation happen in real time.
Yep.
And, as insane as it is, it's also quite fascinating. It's quite fascinating to see these people
I feel like
justify and rationalize and continue to give excuses of like, no, this is normal. This makes sense. And it's like, man, you are so far gone. You're an intelligent guy, but you are so far gone, man.
I feel like we're mice sitting in a big mice maze.
Oh yeah.
And we've got our mice bubble pipes, and we're like, I think
Absolutely.
the cheese is in on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's a lot to be said about the different boxes of mice. Like, we're just the mice in the Canada box. There's mice in the Australia box. Yeah. There's mice in the UK box, and they're all kind of tinkering and fucking with every box differently to see how the mice will react. Oh, these Canadian mice are really docile.
They'll do anything. They'll do anything.
They'll do
Just
anything.
Give them a little bit of marijuana, and that's that.
And it's like Australia. It's like, well, I mean, half of them are asleep. Apparently,
here's the thing.
Them in.
I was talking about this on my show. It's a push and pull. Okay. As they push, and Australia is the perfect example. Australia and New Zealand. Australia and New Zealand have the opposite weather to us. So as they go into their spring, right? They go into a light season.
Spring and summer, yeah.
They say, people will be like, oh, Australia locked down, and look at the success they've had, because they're in spring and summer when we're going in, right? And so they use that to say, oh, well, look at the success they're having, while putting more pressure on us in our cold and flu season. But what they're doing is they're slowly walking us into this complete and utter tyranny of a vaccination passport, digital ID. Digital ID is coming next month, right? The end of September.
Sounds like a terrible existence.
But this is done. Like, the psychological aspect of this is they use Australia and Canada to desensitize Canadians to the tyranny. They use Canada and Australia. I mean, Australia is tyrannical anyway. I'm sure they use Australia and Australia to desensitize the Australians to the tyranny. But still, they push different ways here, and they push differently there. But all of it is done in the same kind of direction. Same in the UK. They're all doing vaccine passports for your health and safety, comrade, right? Who knew the Nazis won the Second World War, right?
Yeah, I mean, man, we've made drawn all these comparisons before. I was watching a YouTube video today where it takes a Jordan Peterson speech, and he talks about how every preceding genocide, there's always the same phenomena which happens, which is the perpetrators of that genocide victimize themselves. And they say, we are the victims. We need to strike first before we get attacked by that. And it's like the very first 30 seconds of this video, I'm like, this is exactly what's happening with the vaccine and the unvaxxed. It's like, it's the unvaxxed. They're coming for us. How can we talk about Justin Trudeau's rhetoric for a second?
Holy smokeroni.
It's he's not campaigning for an election. Like, he's campaigning for segregation.
He's campaigning against those evil anti-vaxxers. The funny, I played a clip of Trudeau this morning talking about how Aaron O'Toole doesn't fight for us. He fights for anti-vaxxers. And I was like, does Justin really think that anti-vaxxers don't deserve rights? Those evil Jews, right? I mean, anti-vaxxers. Right? Like, is that the rhetoric? We're watching the rise of a similar style
regime.
But the rhetoric is exactly the same. The anti-vaxxers, just like the Jews, are dangerous. The anti-vaxxers, just like the Jews, spread disease. Right? It's it maps exactly the same.
They are the problem. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's for some reason pointing that out is like, oh, don't point that out. And it's like, there was a lot of creepy scientists who were doing a lot of messed up stuff as well back then. There's so many parallels. There's just
the medical aspect of it too.
But I gotta say, and you ran for the PPC, so the word Nazi is like, I don't like to use that word. It's a stupid word for the most part, because usually it's completely ridiculous comparison. I was in a group chat with my family, and they're acting like Nazis. Okay. Like, they literally said, oh, well, it's for the greater good, Greg, talking about good society. It's like, oh, you're one of them. I'm like, oh my God, it's happening. And I'm just like picturing like Thanksgiving dinner or the future of like not being able to see my family, and it's like not unrealistic anymore. You know what I mean?
You're welcome to come to my house.
Oh, that's very sweet of you. That's very sweet
Anytime,
of
man.
you.
But I'm being genuine as well. You're more than welcome to my house. But
I would, yeah,
like, I wasn't joking. I just want to make sure that was clear.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. I think that it is very dangerous. And we talk about Demolition Man. We talk about like the parallels with, well, you said the greater good, right? And I've been talking about Hot Fuzz. So like Demolition Man's got the segregated society.
Just to be clear, like my sister actually used that phrase, greater good.
No, I know
Right.
that's
Okay.
why it's so crazy. Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah,
So
it's
like,
creepy.
how can you, well, three things. How can the United States, some states in the United States, New Zealand, Australia, the United Kingdom, and all of the related, like Ireland and like the United Kingdom generally, not just England, Canada, all have exactly the same policies, right? All be marching them forward at exactly the same rate. So people are like, well, where do we go? Where do you go? Not Saskatchewan, right? Because they're doing the same thing as Ontario. Not UK, because they're doing the same thing as Ontario. Not New Zealand, because they're doing the same things as Ontario. So you don't go anywhere, you're trapped, right? Now, the other thing is they want you to use the internet. How's your internet been lately?
I mean, it's been all right. It's been all right.
Yesterday,
Why?
the last 3 days, usually I upload all three. And I mean, I don't want to complain about this. Like, I called Rogers today, and as soon as I got on the phone with the technical guy, the speeds went up, and I was like, that's weird. But the last 3 days, I have not been able, I can't stream out my show. I can't upload my show. Today I had 32K. I had yesterday, it took an hour to upload my show because it was like at like 50 or 60K. And I was like, this is just wild. And then today it was at a tenth of that. It was at like 10 to 12K. And that's why I called Rogers. And then as soon as I was on the phone with them, it started to go back up. And I was like, that's weird. But I can't upload my show to Rumble and Odyssey and BitChute. I can't stream when I do this, like when I do my Zoom.
You can't even upload it.
It's taking like triple the time. So today I actually switched computers because I thought maybe this computer is like dying.
Yeah.
And I had to switch to this computer. So I took the hard drive that I record to, and I plugged it into this computer, and I uploaded from here. Same thing, same speed. And I was like, okay, like for the greater good, right? So
am I crazy?
Yeah. So like, you can believe, like, if you watch Hot Fuzz and understand that the whole movie is about a giant conspiracy that literally the whole town is in on. Like the whole upper echelon of the entire town is in on this vast conspiracy, and nobody believes in this conspiracy except for the main character of Hot Fuzz. And the whole conspiracy was for the greater good, right? It was the greater good to keep this town with its standards of being, great. You just have to kill a few people.
I'll have to watch that movie again. I see it keep coming up.
Yeah, man. I keep talking about it because I just watched it recently. But like, people believe in conspiracies, but they don't believe, like, if they watch Hot Fuzz, and they'll be like entertained by that, and they'll be like, well, that could never happen in real life. And in real life, like last year, right, I got removed from YouTube, and now I can barely upload to Rumble, Odyssey, and BitChute. Does this seem like on 1 gigabyte Rogers internet, does this seem like it's like, oh, it's totally fine. It's Mark, it's you. Like, okay.
Well, yeah. And what's interesting about that is, people are wondering, where is this all headed? Where is this all headed? And it's almost like this socialist, capitalist kind of fusion where, the capitalist part is mostly just monopolies or oligarchies of,
it's even worse. It's the Chinese system. Do you know what the Chinese system is? So the Chinese system is all the big oligarchies are owned by the Chinese government, because any big company is Chinese government front. So you've got Huawei, right? Huawei supported by the Chinese government. All that data is Chinese, goes to the Chinese spy agencies.
Right.
So you can become like a millionaire in China, right? Like, you've got within the lower classes, there's like, if you work hard, you can improve your lot in life, but you can't own like Huawei, because the government just owns it. And if you start a telecommunications company, the government will be like, no, or you work for Huawei now. Like Huawei's interested in this, and now you work for Huawei. So
you'll own nothing and you'll be happy.
Bang, that's it, right? So like,
you'll be a happy slave.
You've got you're an underclass that exists to serve the upper class, and the upper class gets all the best stuff, the Huawei, the whatever, Baidu or whatever it is.
But
it's the Chinese system. That's what they're trying to implement, in my
but
opinion.
what I wanted to allude to there was it's actually similar to the restrictions with the COOF and everything. But I don't know if you know Raging Dissident or Jeremy McKenzie, but he shared this with me kind of like privately, not publicly. Actually, I guess he shares it publicly. He gets he is literally a dissident. He is probably one of the most vocal, outspoken dissidents there is in terms of talking about the Canadian government, blah, blah, blah. And he routinely gets really weird, like internet problems that he has a, kind of team of nerds now who are fans of him, who are baffled by like, the challenges that he has to troubleshoot just to stream and things like this.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's like, are we crazy? It's like, you must be crazy. Rogers is like, hey, it's the internet, man. I guess it's like there's problems that go on. Yeah. And the thing is, this actually relates to something that normies really don't understand with all this. They'll laugh and say, oh, what, you think like the jab equals communism or something? Like, bro. And what they don't understand is that, if you add layer and layer and layer and layer of bureaucracy and more rules everywhere to control people's movement, and did you get the test? Was the test positive or negative? Like, this is just another layer of bureaucracy and control that can manipulate things, and especially to political ends if you wanted to. And it's like, and this is the thing. It's like, it's the idea that we're giving the government so much power. People like me and you, all of us have the same thing in common, and it's foresight. It's foresight.
Yeah. We're
foresight, looking ahead. And it's also like a healthy degree of like skepticism and a healthy amount of, I want to say like almost distrust, or like kind of the right kind of concern or worry, or I almost want to say like fear, right?
Yeah.
And it's
it's born out of experience as well. I'll tell you about my experiences in a minute. I want to mention as well, the last Speaking Moistly I did with Jillian on Thursday was up, had 160 views, got removed, cut off. We talked about the rise of the PPC, or they were at 10%, and Justin Trudeau being terrible. We didn't really talk about much medical information or anything like that, but they were like, oh no, sorry about your luck, boom, done, see you later.
Did they say anything? What was the reason? Like
terms and conditions, this is what my book is about. Like, my main channel was removed because of terms and conditions. They changed the terms and conditions in 2020 and then 2021 as well, specifically to target channels like mine, because I'm literally,
it was a deja vu in the Matrix. They changed something. What does that mean? They took my channel down for no reason. That's what it means.
Yes. It does.
I'm seeing a lot of weird stuff on TikTok, obviously, as well. TikTok is weird because sometimes it's more free, other times it's like not. But I have a series where I quickly do short videos called Trudeau Tweets, or Reading Trudeau's Tweets.
Yeah, I saw that.
And almost all of them behave the same way in terms of views. They'll quickly climb to like 10 to 13,000, and then they'll stop in their tracks. Yep. And they won't get like any more views after that. It'll climb to that within like, hours. And then it just stops at 13.
When I was on YouTube, when I would publish a show, I would have hundreds of views within a minute. Like, when I would publish a show, I would get 300 to 500 views in a minute.
Yeah.
I'd publish and go like grab a drink or something like that, go up and have like 2 comments. And I'd be like, you've barely had time to watch anything. I said, good morning, everyone. And that's it. Like, what are you commenting on? And then, but now
we love the people that comment early, by the way. Comment right now below.
Comment. I expect to see it. But it's such a weird thing, because like, you think, man, that kind of response would translate to the rest of the video. And then what happens is I would hit like 1,100 views, and then it would be like 1,102. And I'm like, an hour later, 1,103. I'm like, that's fucking wrong. They're lying, these liars. And then the likes, the funny thing too, my like ratio is about 10%, and that's held true. It's maybe a bit higher, maybe 15%, but that held true in Rumble. If you go look at the likes on Rumble, it's maybe a bit higher than 10, but it's roughly 10%. But on YouTube, my like ratio was like 30%. So I'd have like 1,200 views and 400 likes, like this crazy amount of likes for the number of views. And I was like, this is wildly out of whack. Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And people might say, "Oh, are you crazy? What? Do you think they have like a room and a back end where they can just like push and pull
They do.
levers to determine how many Yeah, and it's like, well, you could
Dr.
literally do that if you
Doc,
wanted to.
they do.
You know,
Do you
like
know who Dr. Shiva is? You know
I
Dr. Shiva?
do. I don't watch a
Yeah.
lot of his content, but for sure I've seen him.
Yeah. So he sued Twitter because he said they were violating his First Amendment rights. And then the judge
Mm,
basically was like, you can't be suing Twitter. It's at the government's behest that they're doing this. And Shiva was like, what? I'm going to sue the government
what?
too. Yeah, go check out Dr. Shiva. He's suing Twitter. He was suing Twitter. It's a big scandal. Go check it out. It's really interesting. It's in my book. You should read
I've
my
not
book.
heard that.
Dr. Shiva, buddy. It's in my book. Buy my book. I'm just kidding.
Okay, I'm curious though. When we started today, you said that's it. It's game over. Is there? I haven't looked at the news much today. Has something come out specifically today that I should know about?
No, I just think I came to terms today with the realization that they're actually going for it.
Um,
This is
mm,
like game over because we haven't made any meaningful pushback yet.
mm,
Masking, like there's no legal thing backing up mandatory masks other than the edict of an unelected bureaucrat who decided that that's healthy.
mhm.
And there's no real data. This is going to get removed from YouTube, but whatever. There's no real data to back up masking our children for 6 hours a day as being beneficial to them. There's none. There's none. In fact,
Yeah.
it's very, very damaging. But these people are allowed to get away with this kind of crap, right? Sorry.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's. I hate to say it, but it's like this unprecedented situation where all of these world leaders are breaking the law in their own country,
Abusing
and
their citizens.
and
It's like we were it's like we live in occupied territory. I feel like the government is
interesting.
behaving as if
Yeah,
they're overseeing
yeah.
criminals. Like these people don't belong here and they should go
It's certainly
away.
not Canada anymore.
No, it's not Canada. No.
Yeah.
I don't feel at home here. Holy smoke.
I like. I imagine they just replaced the word, the CV word with China. You know, it's like this is. You know, it's well marketed. It's like this is where we're living now. This is our new reality.
Right. So when I said like game over, we're done, right? So what I mean is like, or what I meant is people are being forced into quitting their jobs or getting the jab. If they get the jab, they're on the treadmill. But what happens when they say no, right? They're in the anti-vax camp, right? So,
Mhm.
but what's the next evolution? You and I are blessed with
A real
foresight.
camp, a literal camp.
My statement was segregation. They're already building the infrastructure for this. We
Mm,
have sat around and watched them do it. And we've said, how do we fight? What do we do? Because
mhm.
not that it's not at our door, but it's not really there, right? And now we can't fight because the infrastructure is built that the government has said we're not gonna prosecute any business who wants to mandate vaccines. So you're not going to get any help from the law. You lose your job. They're going to starve you out. They're going to starve anybody who doesn't comply out. That's what they're going to do. And then they're going to go for the banking. And then they're going to go for commerce. They're going to say, you can't shop anywhere unless you've got this job because it's not safe. Or they're going to flip it right into climate change. But it's all the same. It doesn't really matter. We lost because we can't cohesively stand up. There's no representation. There's no honest representation, not municipally, not provincially, not federally. And
So
Aaron
I mean,
O'Toole,
it definitely be prepared. Definitely be prepared. However,
for what? Be prepared for what?
for the scenario you're talking about, but at the
Losing
same,
your
but at the
job
same,
and being blacklisted as a societal outcast, as a leper. How do you prepare for that? Buy 6 weeks worth of food?
well, I don't know. I think
Sorry, I'm not
network.
trying to be a dick.
I
I'm
think
just
network with like-minded people that are in your area, in your neighborhood, and the power of a real community, of a real network of people, definitely helps.
yeah, it's good advice.
Um, yeah, because like there is a lot. Um, I really don't think that they can win outright because what they're trying to do is just like so obscene.
They're
Like we're
baby
gonna
step.
we're gonna enslave humanity. It's like holy crap, you guys. It's a bold-headed move.
Do you feel like
Uh,
you could stop it?
I think that things are gonna get worse before they get better, but I think that it needs to be stopped.
Yeah,
So I
man,
have to
I
try.
agree with you. Like I
So
try. Yeah, okay. How? I'm not meaning to put you on the spot or anything like that. I'm not meaning to
Sure,
be,
sure, sure.
I'm not meaning to
Try
be
me.
like combative or anything like that. I'm not trying
Try
to
me.
be, what is it? Black pill people, like make people feel like there's no hope. Okay. What I'm trying to do is orient us correctly. Like when the Nazis invaded Poland, they understood they were under occupation. They understood that their basic rights were suspended. They were second-class citizens. They understood that in a visceral way. How do we make the other people who are unvaccinated cohesive? How do you send a lightning bolt through that group of people? Because here's the thing, their job is currently under attack. And if it's not under attack now, it's going to be by November. They're not going to be able to feed themselves. They're going to be looking for a job. The jobs are going to be mandating vaccines. How do you meaningfully connect people who are under mass amounts of stress? Like, I don't see it. I don't
You all
know
meet up at the same gulag, you're all going to be in the same gulag cell
how
together.
we burned in the camps. Right?
No, but I think that the way you're thinking of it is a little bit like high level, like the
Matt
weight of
is
the
very
world is
macro.
not, yeah. And the weight of the world is not on your shoulders. It's not on my shoulders. And to give you an idea, there are a lot of good Canadians with hearts out there,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them are waking up for the very first time today, and they're filled with all of that same red pill, to use a term, red pill energy when they first kind of tumble out of the matrix for the very first time. And with that comes a lot of fire, comes a lot of passion, comes a lot of angst and determination and fight, right? Like there's a lot of kind of like fight in these people, especially for the first time when they see what's going on. And along that with that is this hope and this positive energy. And we need to do something about that. And we who have been in this game for a little bit longer, in outside of the matrix, we're tired out, but it really needs to be like longevity, like one day at a time. And what can I do today? Because when we dwell on the future, what's going to happen in the future too much, we can't focus on a simple thing that we might be able to do today. Whether it's something as simple as building a relationship with my neighbor or something, and kind of get digging more into where he's at or where they are at in terms of this whole situation. Isolation and despair is what's going to lead us to our defeat, right? And as long as we're kind of continuing to build relationships and speak the truth, we can't go wrong. Because I do think of it like war, and it's like people are going to die, and there is going to be YouTube channels that go down, and worse, obviously. But it's I really feel like we need to keep our eye on the prize every day, because the alternative to that is, like I said, isolation, despair is it's only going to make things worse and more chaotic. And what people don't want is, or what the enemy doesn't want is us to be calm, cool, collected, focusing one day at a time, being resolved and being, cool headed throughout all this, or at least just making the right next decision. They want people fearful or angry. And if we can overcome those emotions, I think we will win.
Yeah. It's just for me, I'm looking at it from a function. Like I understand having hope and all of that other stuff, but I don't, and maybe it's me, I don't know, who knows. I don't see the infrastructure of an underground resistance to this. I don't see the infrastructure, and maybe I'm not looking, maybe I'm got horse blinders on, right? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'm missing it, and maybe it's a difficult system to function in, right? An underground system that's not easy, and people have been trained to look for not the easy way out, but easy, right? And so I don't know, become Amish? Is that move out to St. Jacobs and become Mennonite? No, not under Dr. Mercer.
No, I think there's definitely a lot to that, because more and more the banks, the large stores and operations, whether it's big box stores or even like your local grocery store, the more that we can, or the less that we can rely on these systems, then the more power we have for ourselves, right? I really see there's kind of like, there's almost like two sides to the fight, or maybe not two sides to the fight. There's one side, like there's the one option of, like buying land, living off the land, and doing all of that, which is
If you don't have
obviously,
if you don't have access to like good hunting land and a river, or like water that is productive water, living off the land in Canada is kind of like difficult. I think like
yeah, no,
unless you
obviously,
can,
and,
yeah,
and you
like
have to assume, you have to,
go ahead.
yeah, and you have to assume, I was going to say, you have to assume that, if you don't get your jab, then eventually you won't be able to like buy propane or whatever from some store, unless you have a good connection or whatever. But essentially, like there's that end of things where it's, try to be self-sustaining, living off the land. And then the other side is fighting the good fight. And fighting the good fight is, very much a real thing. And people unfortunately kind of get caught up in thinking there's no political solution, and everything's political now. Okay. So politics just comes down to power and getting power and grouping and organizing people to, become an effective unit to, influence change in some real way. And sometimes that happens with political parties. Right now, I would suggest, if you're fed up with this BS, that you should vote PPC, or, anyway, I won't get into that, but but people should vote. You know what I mean? Like, because some people are like, oh, it's over, they're going to rig it anyway. And it's like, that's the despair. That's the despair to say that that you don't even believe in Canada anymore. And we're not at that point yet. And even if we were at that point, we should still be participating. Even if it's not a real democracy, we should still be trying to exploit that it doesn't work by like doing it and showing people that it doesn't work. You know what I mean? Because if we just F off and we're not there and we don't believe in it, then people will just think we're crazy or whatever,
Yeah.
Um,
No.
either.
Oh, Greg, you're breaking up. Hold on a second. I'm going to pause the recording here.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about those technical difficulties there. My point is, there is so much power in having this sort of almost stupid, blind faith in things being okay. And I've really been gravitating a lot, actually, to the Bible and Christianity for that reason. I find it very comforting. I find it, things are getting biblical, right? And so I get a lot of comfort in that. And I think that it's actually a very powerful thing psychologically, and almost like this je ne sais quoi, like spiritual element as well, because we will win. There's no way we can lose. And some people might say, that's ridiculous. How can you say something like that? Just realize this is exactly what our enemies do. 10 years ago, there was some crazy person, huge LGBTQ the activist, who was like, we're going to teach 100 genders in schools. And they would say that, and people would be like, you're crazy. That's never going to happen. And that's happening, and it's because of that insane blind faith in their beliefs and that conviction that became a reality. I know I'm sounding like some basic girl drinking a latte, healing crystals. We need to manifest this, you guys. But it's like, also, in my own life, I really think this sort of stupid blind faith is something to really get in touch with and practice, even though it doesn't make sense, even though you don't
the hard part
it coming to it's something day to day that I think helps.
I think the hard part for me is that, like, when I see the damage being done, like the collateral damage that's stacking up, people looking for jobs, people losing their jobs, people under threat, people believing that they're freely making a choice that they would never make without the coercion of, you're going to lose your job and or have a difficult time finding another job because of this. I have a hard time with balancing the knowledge of that and everything that's happening with blind faith that it's going to turn out okay. Because, and not like I'd love to subscribe, but because I know history, right? I saw Venezuela, I saw Pol Pot. I've seen history, read history books, seen enough Discovery Channel, like dictators of history, whatever. And not all of that information is like bang on. But Stalin murdered 29 million of his own citizens through the Holodomor. I think Holodomor was Stalin. Kulaks, right? And Hitler, if you believe all of the stories from the Second World War, was a monster. So you say, we're going to win, and I say, damn, that timeline is the killer, right? That the details, the devil's in the details. And man, like if you were a Jew in 1938 and you said, we're going to win, right? But not all of us are going to make it through. Is that comforting? I don't know, man. I don't know. And like, that's where I'm at, right? How do you tell everybody, like, we can't do this. We can't let this happen. If we let this happen, we're letting this happen for our kids and our grandkids. And who's fighting? Like, this is our mess up. This is us that screwed up. We watched this go, right? Like, holy smokeronies.
That's for sure. That's for sure. That's that's definitely a something that I wish could be communicated to people if they understood the stakes of what was going on. And I think a big problem is so many people don't see the stakes of what's going on, or they buy into the health and safety thing, which is totally absurd at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah. No, you're getting tackled to the ground and beaten by cops for your safety.
You see this
for everyone's safety. That's why they knock your teeth out. That's why your teeth are on the concrete here. It's for your safety.
I saw some images from France, and some guy got hit in the head with a baton from the police who were, it was a tussle or whatever.
Just doing their job.
That's right. Listening to their boss, right? Sir. So he cracked the guy's skull. I don't know if he cracked the guy's skull, but there's blood. And I mean, head wounds bleed, right? So he was sitting on the ground, kneeling on the ground, and blood everywhere. And there's 4 or 5 guys kind of around him trying to like help him, but he was unsteady and the whole thing. And I thought, like, is this a precursor to more defined lines, right? Is this a precursor to a more official style of war, right? Like it's not going to take somebody long to size this up and go, I could beat that group over there if this group over here were a bit more organized, right? And then it doesn't take, I mean, not that it doesn't take much, but it doesn't take much. And then all of a sudden, and then you got an arms race, and then you've got uniforms to identify, and then you've got a civil war, right? And it's like, oh man, I hope
it's certainly not far off. It's certainly not far off. And I gotta say though, I mean, when it comes to like a war, it's like, man, the other side has really lame things that they're sticking up for. Like they're sticking up for what, like Pepsi and like, transgender athletes. I mean, like, no offense, but it's like, that's a really shitty thing to be fighting for, bro. Yeah. Like, you're literally fighting for Coca-Cola. Like,
Coca-Cola is an awful company. Terrible, awful company. Morally bankrupt. All right, let's end it there, man.
Others.
Indeed. Well, right. I mean, it's hard to jeepers creepers. The world's a tough place these days, right? Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me today, Greg. I'm feeling a little like, like we're losing a bit. And now I feel like we're definitely losing a lot. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's before we go, could we maybe talk about, the PPC seems to be having this thing in the polls, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know how much you can trust these polls, but what were your thoughts when you saw that?
Do you want the super happy like version or the pessimistic?
No, tell me how you actually feel about it. Tell me
two versions. Okay, the pessimistic as heck version is they're going to use the PPC at whatever percent to say to say Aaron O'Toole had like a split vote and Justin Trudeau gets some kind of majority or something like that. But with Justin Trudeau's majority comes 3 seats for the PPC, right? Like Justin Trudeau gets a majority. The PPC gets 3 seats. Yay. Right. So that's one thing. I feel like they're setting it up for something. It's like they're putting the pins up to knock them all down, right? They're
Mm.
getting you excited about something, and then they're going to be like, pull the carpet right from under you. No, I'm excited about the PPC. Did you watch the 2020 presidential election? A little known character, Donald J. Trump. You probably didn't hear about him. Biden was way more popular, I hear. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, like, all the news was saying how popular Biden was.
Uh-huh.
So in the 2020 election, Trump looked like he was super, super ahead. And then Joe Biden didn't leave his basement.
Mm-hmm. But he had little circles. Circles drawn at his events.
Here's a thought. Trudeau. Here's like a thought process that fell out of my mouth during my show today. And I was like, the Democrats would have done anything to stop Donald Trump, anything to stop him, right? Mm-hmm. If in some crazy world, Bernier gets like 155 seats or whatever, I could see, right? Okay, or 140 seats. I could see the liberals and the conservatives coming out and being like, we've decided we're going to govern together because we have to stop the PPC. And it's like, our 189 seats is better than their whatever 155 seats, and that's that. We've got the block to back us up just in case. They would do anything.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, they would do anything. And it's that easy in a Canadian system. All you got to do is get Aaron O'Toole to agree with Justin Trudeau, right?
Yeah.
He could be the deputy prime minister. It'd be such an upgrade over Freeland, right? Can you imagine? You imagine the nightmare?
Well, I mean, is there anything Aaron O'Toole is doing that's actually conservative? Like anything?
He likes the vaccine passports. And he's I showed a speech of his today where he spent 35 seconds talking about Justin Trudeau. He's like, I agreed with him in 2015 when he said blah, 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 blah. And I was like, so
they agree on everything now.
It's crazy.
I really don't get it. I really don't.
I think Aaron O'Toole brought like 5 or 6 farmers out and he just randomly yelled at them about guns for 5 minutes. He was like,
what?
The gun laws. Yeah, no. It's well, he backed up the Trudeau gun laws. He backed up the Trudeau vax pass. He's backing up pretty much everything that Trudeau's done. So if you like Justin Trudeau and getting caught in the rain,
don't split
vote
the vote
for Aaron O'Toole.
Don't split the vote. If you're gonna vote for the vax pass, you might as well just vote Trudeau.
Yeah, man.
Why would you even vote for Aaron O'Toole, man?
I mean, if you vote for Aaron O'Toole, no more growls, no more hair, no more socks. Holy cow! What do we do? No more cottage, right? The coward of the cottage. Jeepers creepers! Didn't you know there's a disease outside? Right?
Yeah, I'm tired of that.
I mean, it's so in retrospect, if somebody was like, "There's this thing going around. It's real dangerous," and you're like, "Yeah, what's the survival rate for 50 and below? 99.7. Very dangerous, right? Should we shut down all of society for this? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's worth bringing up because this has been a common thread since we've started speaking moistly.
Indeed.
And at one point I feel like I was a broken record saying it all the time, where where we are now, the conversation has completely changed. It is not about the virus at all anymore.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Like talking about the actual virus itself and like how deadly it is and blah, 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 blah. How obese are you? Are you vitamin D deficient? What are your pre-existing health conditions? How old are you? Like all these things. No. Okay. You are not going to be able to buy cereal unless you have this piece of paper. And it's like, how did we get here?
I think that it's funny. I think that it's funny too. We should end the show soon because we've been talking a long time. But I think that it's funny too that we've got a situation where like obese people, no problem. You know what, buddy? You go to the buffet and we will do a tummy staple on Tuesday. Okay, like no problems, right? Are you an alcoholic? Come on in. We've got a liver transplant for you, right? No judgment here, right? Oh, you are overdosing on opium. Here's tomorrow's dose of opium, and here's your whatever naloxone to prevent you from dying.
So,
right? No judgment here. You don't have your COVID vaccine, right? Like,
yeah. So there's a brilliant, just to end this off, there's a brilliant TikTok where someone has a screen recorder and she looks up one of the early treatments for COVID. I won't mention it, because it'll,
Because,
so it starts with an I,
Yep.
rhymes with rectin. Anyway,
Woo, close.
she Googles it, and it's like, does this work for the coof, the virus?
Yeah.
And like Google's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, no, ooh, it's scary. Don't use this. And then she Googles, can a man have a baby? And it's like, yes.
For sure.
Yes, a man can have a baby. Absolutely it can. And thanks, Google. Thank you. That's just science.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
It's just science, guys.
Yeah, well, that's where we're at, man. That's where we're at. And the ever-changing goalposts and the never, you like, if you thought you knew what the restrictions were now, like wait until like 2 weeks from now, where they're like, can I see your identification to come into this building?
Well,
No.
that's the thing too, right?
No, you can't actually.
I made this tweet earlier this week, which is, you think everyone's talking about how the jabs work so well.
Mhm.
We haven't even had a flu season yet.
I know.
So, I will stay a part of the control group for science. You know what I mean? Like,
how long? What's your time? What do you think the timeline is? What do you think the timeline is after October 31st before people start getting taken to voluntary camps? Either voluntary. So the idea behind the camp is that if you have COVID, you protect your family by going to the voluntary camp.
You go there as in as in the government forces you to go there against your will. But yeah, you go there.
Yeah, I've seen people actually going voluntarily, but I've heard of people not being allowed to leave Australia. But
right,
like there was a guy coming out. It was this is a couple of weeks ago. I saw it, but he was coming out of his house, and he's like, "Wow, I'm gonna go," and it was that was my Australian, and it was an undetermined amount of time. And the news report made it like, for an indeterminate amount of time, he's gone, right? Have fun at your isolation center. I was like, yeah. So it's some crazy shit, man.
Yeah, and it's no, this isn't fascist communism. This is this.
But like, what do you
virus going around, guys?
What do you think? Do you think that it's gonna? Do you think that we're gonna have people in isolation camps before the end of the year, or do you think that it'll take till next year before people are in isolation camps? Or do you think it won't happen at all?
I think it's unfortunately. I know I talk about being positive all the time, but this is what I think. Flu season is going to hit. More people are going to get sick, like they do during flu season. And I'd like to believe that these jabs are effective, but again, we'll see during the winter.
Well, why are we doing so much worse with them?
But again, even if that's not the case, flu season's going to hit and people are going to die just like it does every single year. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
And every single one is going to be blamed on people who are non-compliant. It's going to be blamed on people who don't have the jab. Like, we already know this, but as things are reaching a boiling point, I think that's when the next false flag or operation is going to be triggered. And it could be the blackout thing. It could be the cyber attack thing. It could be the solar flares where they I don't know if you've heard about that one where the whole internet shuts down or whatever. I think things are going to get super, super, super chaotic. And then as things are reaching a boiling point, they're going to pull the lever and try to do something else to kind of escalate everything. Just add, it'll be like 2020, the first lockdown all over again, where something will just the new layer of chaos add to everything.
Aliens.
Unfortunately, I think there's even more chaos coming, and that's kind of why I'm encouraging people to try to get into like a healthy mindset, because it's going to get even more crazier.
They'll have Joe Biden.
If you don't know how to be sane and have faith despite the chaos we live in, then it's like, you are not going to do well, man.
This is all going to be a movie. What's going to happen? Okay, we're going to end it on this. What's going to we're going to end it in a minute. What's going to happen is they're going to have Joe Biden doing like a press conference, and then he's going to be like, oh no, and then he's going to fall over his desk with his on his back with his stomach up, and then an alien's going to explode out of his chest and start addressing the American people. Right? Like, welcome to your new overlords, right? I'm the president. And that's it. And then right, and then the internet goes down. Like, did you see that Joe Biden thing? Game over. I don't know. Anything could happen, man. Anything could happen. I mean,
Anything could happen.
That one's a long shot. I'll admit that one's a long shot.
That would be
That'd be cool though. Crazy.
That'd be almost like comical. That would
Be,
I hate to say it, but that would be like as if the past 2 years hasn't been enough. It's like, oh, and then what happened? And then the alien ripped out of his chest.
And then Ripley shows up.
Just like the movie.
Exactly.
Just like the movie. Apparently
have
it's
you
those
seen
xenomorphs. Yeah.
Have you seen Aliens? Man, this is gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Where can they find you, man?
They can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Greg Wycliffe. I'm hopefully going to be releasing a new skit soon. If Public Health Canada was honest. And it's if I don't have any strikes on YouTube yet, this might be my first one. So we'll see.
Yeah. That's a deep well. There's a lot of rich things to mine there.
Yeah. And right now it's sitting at 12 minutes. I might have to cut it down. But we'll
yeah. You could cut it into 6 2-minute videos.
Yeah, I'm definitely there's gonna be more than one cut, that's for sure.
Perfect. All right. You can find me at CanadaPoly.com, CanadaReport.co, and SpeakingMoistly.co. I do so much stuff, it's just ridiculous. So if you're interested,
buy his book.
That'd be cool.
Buy his book.
And otherwise, check out my daily show on Rumble and Odyssey and BitChute, because YouTube is asshole. Okay, that's enough for me. Speaking moistly, keep 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly. Oh, that's a terrible image.